All right, I guess we're ready to go.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to start the March 1st, 2021 Disability Advisory Board meeting at 5:02. So do I have a motion for the approval of the January 14th, 2021 meeting minutes?
I make a motion.
Moved.
All right, so Dave Rogers moved. Do I have a second?
Second from David
Dave
Mann.
Mann, second. Do I have approval from everyone? Aye, say aye.
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 All right, unanimously approved by all. Item 2 is reappointments and board openings. So I just wanted to say that Trish O'Donnell has been reappointed, and good thing somebody sent me an email, but Trish, I think, got it back a while ago and hadn't sent in. You have to send a letter in if you want to be reappointed. So just for Lynn to know, when your 2-year time is up, make sure you have to submit in writing that you would like to continue serving. Otherwise, they just assume you don't want to serve.
You need a letter from the board, though, and from the BOS board or the township manager.
Yeah, so the letter would come from the township manager. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Trish, for continuing to serve. We all appreciate it. Yep. And then I just wanted to point out that we do have one open position still available, the alternate position. So if anyone is interested in serving, you can send your cover letter or interest in an email why you would like to serve, and then send a resume, and then the township manager would contact you for an interview. So we don't really get involved with, doing the interviews. It's the board of, we're serving the board of supervisors of the township. All right, item 3, I just wanted to bring up the website, community channel, and that information, but I also wanted to say there has been a change. Kurt Ferguson's, his assistant was Barbara, so we've been dealing with Barbara for a long time, and she is now retired, I have heard. So Katie McVan is I guess, the new executive assistant to Kurt. So just so we, know that is our contact person if we would like to, get information over there. And if anybody needs her email, I can get that to you. But I noticed last month after the January meeting, I went on to the community channel, I was flipping through, and I realized they hadn't updated it from October. They still had information for things in October, and even the bridge work, the Scudder Falls Bridge and everything was, old. And the only reason I looked is because I had sent an email, they had spelled Disability Advisory Board wrong. So, I was just kind of looking through there. So I sent an email out to the township manager, and right away they took everything down, and then now it is updated. But I don't think they updated the error in our name. So I have to email them back. But at least they now have up-to-date information regarding, other activities and things. But I just wanted to bring up, that to me, that's important to keep updated, especially, not everyone goes on the computer. Not everyone goes to the website, so maybe you and I would go to the website to get information. We're not going to the community channel, but maybe people that are housebound or, they don't have HD TVs or anything, they might be getting information on the township community channel. So I just felt that it was important to kind of keep that up to date and maintain that. The other thing was the website. So I went out on our website just to, see if the meeting minutes were posted. And I realized I clicked on a couple of the links, and the links are no longer valid. And so I really think we need to look at everything on the website and maybe even think about reorganizing it, because it's getting a little cluttered as far as, things that we will post. And maybe we want to organize it in a better way of information that we feel is more important, maybe put it up to the top. And then, some things that are available on the Bucks County website, maybe we just have a link to the Bucks County website rather than putting it on ours. So making it more of a, go to our website, but then we're going to take you to other areas that would provide more information. So I'm kind of looking for someone. Is there anyone that might want to just take a shot at looking at the website and seeing what still works, and maybe coming up with a way to reorganize it, and we can, take a look at it.
I'll be glad to help out.
Lynn, if you just, because that'll be good for you, maybe just to see what's out there.
Yes.
But we can discuss maybe in future meetings too, like I said, what's important is transportation. Let's have a link for, transportation, or maybe we organize it for young, children and young adults, and maybe we have a senior section or housing section. I don't know. Let's maybe just make it a little more user-friendly. Make sure our forms are out there, our special needs assessments forms for the emergency, the police department that we've been discussing. So just let's look at it again, and maybe we haven't looked at it in a while. So I thought that might be something that we can definitely update. All right, so we'll put Lynn down to work on that, and I'll work with you on that,
Thank you.
obviously, so. All right, the next item is community center doors.
Here's Dr. Weiss.
Again?
Hi, Dr. Weiss, how are you? Welcome.
I'm fine, thanks.
Next item is community center doors, and Monica had sent me the bid that is going out for those doors. And I sent that to David Mann and Dave Rogers. Dave Rogers, for Lynn, looks at all the plans usually, and I thought it would really be good for Dave Mann to review, just because the use of some of the push buttons I had concern with. So they did take a look at those. And Dave Mann, I know, so what they want to do is, the community center doors, there's 2 sets of doors. So they want to put a push button, so then the doors would automatically open, but they really don't want them both to open, because I think it lets a lot of cold air in, hot air out, for environmental purposes. So then you have to enter and then hit another button to open up the second set of doors. So Dave Mann, I just wanted to get your feeling on that, of how those systems work for you.
Obviously it creates more steps to get into the building, right? To have to hit 2 sets of door openers. But I personally never thought it was an issue if they want to do it that way. I think the big issue is to make sure that, as someone would be doing that they don't have to worry about the doors opening on them. I think that for me has always been the biggest barrier, right? So you said the doors are going to open in, right? So you can have if you go through the thought of experiment of entering the building, you hit the first set of door openers, you go through the first threshold, then you're trying to hit the second set of door openers. Are the first doors closing on you? Is there enough space in the vestibule for that to be avoided? So that's the kind of thing that I think planners want to kind of think through when they're developing that. Again, if all the doors open at the same time, you don't have to worry about that. But as you said, you probably also lose heat. One thing that I could also think of potentially would be that could one door on one side open and then another door on the other side open, kind of as I don't know, but these are the types of things to think about, that they need to think about when they're planning to do this.
When you said, Lisa, that they open in.
So when you're entering into the building,
Correct.
They will enter in, but when you're coming out, those doors will open towards you.
Oh, you see that? I don't understand how that meets fire code. My understanding was for fire code, egress doors to buildings have to both open outward.
So when you're entering the building, they could point outwards, and then they could point outwards when you're exiting the building.
That's what they would
Okay,
do. That way,
okay.
yeah.
I'll make sure. Maybe I have it wrong. Did you
Right.
notice that on the plans?
Right.
I mean,
What is important is, because you have that second set of doors, the button that controls them has got to be far enough away so that you can't put it on the style of the door of the second door, because then you're going to have to back up real quick while they're opening, because they're going to open at you.
Right, that's what Dave Mann is saying. It's got to
Correct.
be
Yeah.
a hit without
There's
having to move.
So essentially, you have to have two posts,
yeah, there's
both of which are at least, I'll call it 3 feet, whatever the number is,
Yeah.
away from the door.
there's two separate issues. The one issue is the opening of doors towards the. There are two issues. One's called about when doors open towards you, and one when doors open away from you. So when doors open towards you, Dave, you're right. You need some kind of pole or post or something so that when you hit the button, you don't have to move back quickly to avoid being hit by the doors. The other thing that I was saying is that if the doors are opening away from you and you go through a threshold and you go into the vestibule area, there needs to be enough room in the vestibule for you to be able to maneuver and hit a second button if that's what you need to do. And that the doors don't close in on you as you are waiting to maneuver to hit the button. So
Yeah.
and again, that would only be in the scenario if you have to hit two separate buttons. If you only have to hit one button, you really don't have to worry about the second problem. But you are probably losing more heat from the building because I'm assuming both doors would open. You'd have 4 doors open, creating this conduit for cold air or warm air to escape the building.
All right, so I think I'll put in writing to Monica those additional concerns, and I'm not sure, maybe might have to run up there and take a look.
I'll be more than happy to
Okay,
get involved in that process.
Yeah.
If the people that are designing the doors want to talk about it, we can. I think sometimes when you're right there, it works better than trying to guess it when you're by words.
okay. All right, so I'll contact Monica and we can go up there and maybe take a quick look. I just can't remember exactly how much room is in between, like in the vestibule.
That vestibule is a fairly good size,
Okay,
but
okay. We can take a
Have you been
look.
to the one in the library? That might be a good comparison because, it's
I'd have to. It's been a while since I looked at them when I went through there, but that's a good idea. I'll take a ride over there.
situation where you have to push a button to get through the first set of doors, and then you get inside. It's somewhat of a narrow vestibule, and then you have to push a second button. It seems kind of overly complicated, or I don't know, more difficult to use. You might want to use that as a comparison.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the library is open, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Okay, so we'll just, I know they're going out to bid, but, we can always, I guess, change from 2 buttons to 1 if we, need to. I don't know. Dr. Weiss, do you know when? Is that coming up on the Board of Supervisors meeting this coming Wednesday?
No.
Okay, so we have a little time. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask a question? I just don't know. Does it have to be a button that, like the type of door openings that they have in supermarkets? It has that overhead sensor. Doesn't that work in a situation?
No, that's probably a whole different door. That's a
Yeah.
whole different setup. That would cost probably a lot more money.
Those are usually used with sliding doors.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we will continue with that. Next on the agenda is the Secret Garden Inclusive Playground. I wanted to give you an update on the shade that the Eagle Scout has proposed. So Monica and I met with Sam, and we discussed a little bit more about it. But, just to fill everyone in, he wants, for an Eagle Scout project, he wants to do approximately 10 by 10, 12 by 12 type of a shade somewhere in the garden on playground there. So he has to put together a whole proposal and, get it okayed by his scoutmasters and bring it up to, actually, Dave Mann knows more about this than I do. But so it's still in the working phases, but we would, everyone is really excited about it, as I am, and I'm sure all of us are. But we want to make sure, we give them enough guidance and we want to give them support and, get this project going. So I think the biggest thing is he's going to have to fundraise. So we were trying to come up with ideas of how maybe he could, fundraise some, especially during the pandemic, we really can't have big gatherings. So he's going to come up with some plans for that. And I said we would, help him out any way we can with that. But I think, continuing with the longer term plan, he's kind of getting the ball rolling. And I'm thinking maybe we want to take it a little bit further. So coming up with a much larger plan to add additional, shade sales. So if, for instance, if he collects more money than what he needs to do, just his one sale, maybe that extra money can be used for another sale that the township, at some point might have funds for us to be able to do that. So I don't want to I kind of want to expand it is what I'm saying. We, come up with some additional ideas and maybe areas in the park, in the playground that we would like to put shade over. And it is a little difficult because some of those, some of the equipment is kind of tall. So, when we were discussing it with the Eagle Scout, we said you can do 8-foot, 10-foot, 12-foot tall poles. And, there's a lot of decisions to be made. So we just have to, we might just want to discuss this a little bit more and come up with a much larger plan that we can add on to. And like I said, I think there's a lot of people interested, and I feel like his fundraising efforts are it's going to go well because people are on board. And after the article in the paper and after discussing it with Parks and Rec, everybody's very excited about it. So it's kind of where we're at right now. We're waiting on Sam to get approval from his scoutmasters and all. So I don't think there's much that we need to do right now until he comes back with a plan, and then we can figure out how we would like to support him in that.
Yep.
So, does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah, Lisa, just a couple reactions. I think one thing that I'm surprised about is that he has to fundraise. I don't understand why the township can't support him with the materials. If they see this as a project that's going to better township properties. So, that might be something to ask the township about.
Well, I feel like all the other Eagle Scout projects, the township hasn't provided money. I think we would provide, which we've already said, we will provide support. So in other words, the Public Works Department will help them dig the holes and things like that. But I thought it was the Scout project for the Scout to come up with, I think, and Dr. Weiss, you might know, for Veterans Park, I think, they did the plantings around the park. I don't think the township paid for those. I feel like the Scout.
All Scout projects that I know of been self-funded.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't think that that's necessarily a requirement of the project, but that might be a township policy. So, I think that, it just is what it is. If we're not going to be able to get pay for the materials for the project. I think it'll be important, Lisa. I agree with you to kind of look at the plans once they've been approved by his unit leader and by whoever else. I think Eagle projects may even need a approval above that somewhere in the council. But I think it's important for us to kind of look at it because I think that I have a feeling that everyone's going to look at this the finished product and say, do we want to do more of these? Do we want to do these at different sites? And so I think it's important that it be done well because it's going to be, I think it's for whether or not the Scout intends it to be, it's going to be kind of something people are going to look to see whether we want to do it in more spaces and places.
And I think there is one proposed to go into the dog park. I think somebody else might be doing that. So yeah, I think it's becoming popular. So that seems to be, again, which is great to me, if they want to come up with the funds and work on that project, I think it's great for the community. So.
Yep.
And then I did ask Monica about, I said, we still want trees there. And those trees that they planted just cannot seem to take off. And what she said was probably true, that up at Memorial Park, that wind is killing all the trees. I guess you don't realize it's just, right there out in the open, and the elements really have done a number on many of the trees. Even some of if you go over there, just trees are leaning. You can see which way the wind is blowing. And I know they did a lot of plantings with the Environmental Council, I guess did a lot of the trees. They're just not taking off either. So it is a problem. And I don't know if there's a certain type of tree that does better, but it's just something we have to keep in mind. All right, so we'll just keep in touch with Sam, the Eagle Scout, on his progress.
So with all that wind, it better be a sturdy shade sail.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't take off.
Yeah, we're discussing that, and I think you can also take down the sails like wintertime, so there probably wouldn't be shade during the winter because the snow going on the snow, it'd be heavy, it'd probably collapse anyway. So.
And I think this is the Scout's Eagle Scout project. So he's probably not an Eagle Scout yet. This is a requirement.
Right.
To become an Eagle Scout.
Yeah. Okay. The ADA transition plan for the Parks and Rec. So, we've been working, I guess Monica's been working on this project for some time. And one of the priorities is, doing the ADA transition. I guess she's doing a lot of other stuff. So she asked for our assistance, and, under Dave's leadership last year, we all came up with an Excel spreadsheet that listed out each park and, comments that we had as a board by each park. So now that was submitted, it needed to go a couple steps further. So we had to prioritize each park. That was the first thing. So we all got a chance to look at that and just decide with all the parks, there must have been 16 parks, like which ones would you want to start on first? And obviously, we just kind of looked at that and said, the ones that are being used the most probably should be most prioritized. And things like the little pocket parks might not be as high a priority to start with. So we came up with that. And then the next level, so we're prioritizing the park. Then the next level is we wanted to prioritize within the park, what do we want to start on first? What's number one? Our bathrooms number one, is a water fountain number one, is a pathway number one. So we came up with a 1 through 5 scale of how to prioritize within the park. So, again, I've been working with Monica on that. Let me see if I can pull up, let me see if I can share a screen here. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so this is, just a little bit about it, but this is the priorities. And within each park, the number one is, if you can't get into the park, then you can't even enjoy anything in it. So number one is just making it an accessible entrance into the park, whether it's through a sidewalk, a building entrance, anything to get you from, maybe your car in the parking lot into a building, a car in the parking lot into the park. So that would be your number one, because if you can't get to the park, then there's no reason to have anything in the park that's accessible. So that was our number one. The number two was making everything within the park accessible, whether it's getting to a sports court or getting to a playground or getting to the pool. So that would be, making sure there's curb cuts and sidewalks within the park to make it accessible. Number three was restrooms. So that was just, we're going to prioritize those as number three. Number four was the lower level things such as drinking fountains, grills, picnic tables, seating, concession stands. And then number five was, I call it goods and services. In other words, if you're holding an event there, maybe a camp or whatever, that would be the fifth thing that we're prioritizing. And we did that for parks and then again for facilities, which is very similar. So that was our scale of 1 to 5. So now let me go. So now here is Community Park, Kids Kingdom Pavilions, and tennis courts. We gave that park a priority 1 over here because it's, that's a very well-used facility. So if we're going to start making accessibility adjustments in any of our parks, this would obviously be one that we would want to prioritize. And then based upon our committee's review, we then gave a scale from 1 to 5, what we just discussed, getting into, from a parking spot, handicap parking would be prioritized, handicap parking signs. The accessible routes between the various areas we prioritized as level 2. Seating at picnic tables, level 4, prioritized 4. Again, just curb cuts getting to places would be number 1. So we went through each one of these and gave it that priority. Now, the next step is to obviously give projected costs, which it's beyond our pay scale. So that would be Jim Majewski will be coming and completing this information, and then what year, they can, which budget year, because this is a long-term project. So this is just, each facility. So if we go down, we have the Fred Allen softball complex. We gave that a 2 because we can't give everything a 1. The nature trail, we gave it a 4. And again, it's just that 1 through 5 scale is right in here based upon what we just went over. Then we have Mackel's Field. Again, that was a priority 1 because that's well used, and Memorial Park is well used. So these are kind of the parks that are the most used. And again, just giving it the 1 through 4 scale, making sure people can get into it. Water fountains, picnic tables are level 4, and so on. We have 5 Mile Woods, getting to the visitor center, getting into having a handicap parking. We have restrooms. We can all take a look at this, but just so you know, this level 5 here, getting to repairing the boardwalk and widening everything in there, that's a huge project. We all know that. And the reason I gave it a level 5, because that's more of a goods and services. It's like a program. So again, we can talk about that, but that, to me, this seems like it's going to be something very difficult to do based upon, we can't do the whole thing, but maybe we can consider doing part of it where some of the boardwalks are now. Dog park, there's some water fountains and things there. Community center door. And I think, Veterans Square, all of these given a priority and then priority based on the plan here. So everybody can take a look at this. If we want to discuss it more, we can obviously discuss it more, and it can be a work in process, but they do need our approval. And let me just continue going down. This is listing of all of the parks that the Parks and Rec Department came up with. And then this is our audits. So if you look, everything that we wrote up is part of this plan. So this is our detailed analysis of each park. So that's, the person that did it, the which park it's in and the areas that we, found deficiencies or need adjustments. And that's it. So that is the overall plan. And I'm going to stop sharing that. That's the overall plan that they're going to submit to the Board of Supervisors. And this is all part of their huge transition plan. And we need to take a vote and approve this plan to be submitted to the Board of Supervisors.
Do we need to
So,
vote?
go ahead.
Are we voting on that tonight?
No, we don't have to vote on it tonight.
Yeah.
So if everybody wants to, we can take a look at it.
I'll need a little bit of time with it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're comfortable with it, we could take a vote, but I think there's so many moving parts. There's a lot of information there that if everybody just wants to take a look at it, and then at our next meeting, we can vote to approve it, our piece of it. Obviously, there's more that has to happen. Jim Majewski has to come up with his cost basis and all that. So it's not final, but I want our piece to go for approval as far as everything that we've listed out in this. So anybody have any other comments on that before you kind of take?
Is your suggestion that we review it and then take a vote on it at the next meeting? Is that you're thinking? Okay.
Yeah. The only problem is I don't know what the timeline is that Monica's really looking for it. I don't know if there's a drop dead date that we need to be aware of. So I'll find out. And, if we have to move up our meeting, maybe from, whenever we decide, maybe we have to meet in April instead of May, if there's some kind of time constraint.
So that report is all our component. It's nobody else's component,
Right. Other than when,
except when he puts the price in.
yeah.
All right.
And I mean, Monica came up with following the plan of other, communities, but some of the wording, she started it off of what it was to look like and what we should put into it. So, okay, so we have homework to do. So if everybody can take a look at that. All right, so next on the agenda is, I'm just calling this section Community News. And what I'd like to have under Community News each meeting is a featured program, which all I'm trying to do there is maybe bring to light something in our community that we want to maybe expand on. And for this meeting, I had Lynn look into the Bucks IU update. We had mentioned that, and Lynn was going to investigate a little bit more so we can share that. And then this is something where, once we get information, this is something maybe we can put out onto the website. So Lynn, if you'd like to go ahead and let us know what you found out.
So I did send you that in your email. I don't know if you want to share it or not. On February 1st, I had a Zoom meeting with Hillary she's the supervisor of special ed, Laura, who is the program coordinator, the transition coordinator for the program, and myself. And I had sent a large number of questions for them to answer before our meeting. My questioning, though, however, after speaking to Lisa, my questioning was more towards what I have done in the past as far as transition programs in the high school. So I had to really curve my conversation with them when I had the meeting to be more of just funneling the information through our committee to the residents of Lower Makefield. So I just really have a summary of what their program is all about. It's currently an approved provider for the supported employment services through OVR and through the Bucks IU adult employment services feature like job skill training, accessibility, transportation training. They use a wide variety of community businesses. She did give me some examples of what they're using in the high school because they actually haven't started high school level because they haven't actually started the adult program as of yet. They are waiting for a final approval from the ODP to provide the community participation support of the program, and that's the recreation, the leisure, the volunteering portion. And all the referrals for the program come through OVR. They're not accepting any funding right now. No private funding will be accepted. And if you need more information about the program, you contact the Bucks County IU at 215-348-2940, extension 1330, or you can email the adult programs at bucksiu.org. And I put a small report together and I sent it to Lisa to be added into our minutes.
Okay, and there it is there. So we'll get all this information into our meeting minutes. Now, Dave.
One other thing I wanted to add is I did contact Lori this morning to find out if they have received the final approval from the Office of Developmental Programs for that last component of their program. She said they had received questions that had to be answered, which they did answer, and she's hoping for approval very quickly.
Okay. And Dave Mann, Lynn used big words like OVR and ODP and all those. Weren't you involved with the OVR in Harrisburg?
Me?
Yeah.
So I'm a member of the State Board of Vocational Rehabilitation. So it's an oversight body that reviews and approves OVR policies within the Commonwealth.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Lynn, for update on that, and we'll get that information. Just make sure we have that available.
I was going to say that, I think that this is a general comment that, if we have people within the township who are people with disabilities and they are interested in receiving supports and services to help them go back to work, or maybe they're at risk of not being able to work because of their disability and they need services and supports to learn new skills or receive accommodations, the Pennsylvania Office of Vocational Rehabilitation is always available for them to submit an application to. So OVR's office for our region is based out of Norristown, and that's, if you are interested in applying, you would contact the Norristown office and start the application process. But that's something that's available to all Lower Makefield Township residents as residents of the Commonwealth.
David, have they put a new, I don't know what the title would be, director, manager, whatever, of that Norristown office? Because I know through the Center for Independent Living, our contact with them has been extremely limited because the person that was in charge of that office left, and for about 4 or 5 months there was nobody heading it up. It was all being handled out of Harrisburg. Have they done anything with that you know of?
I have not heard anything, but if you would like me to follow up with you, Dave, I can do that.
I would appreciate it because the Center for Independent Living could use the help.
Yeah. I'll make a query about who's currently leaving the Norristown District Office and get back to you.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay. I always look at the news around our town here, and I had sent something to Monica about Doylestown I saw in the paper. And just so you know, everywhere around us, they're making these long-range township park plans. And it's just interesting, to kind of see the evolution that is occurring with making things, I'll read it. The social equity and equality goals would mean including seniors, elderly, and the disabled as the township looks at ways to expand park and open space services. Open space and trails will make inclusion a priority as the township upgrades and maintains its recreation facilities. So I just think this is showing that, I mean, our Parks and Rec has taken a great stance as far as doing this ADA transition plan. But even communities that aren't being involved in this whole accreditation process, it looks like as they're making changes to their parks, upgrading and maintaining them, they really all are trying to expand and making sure everything is inclusive. So it's just good to know that the townships around us are just keeping this in mind and trying to make all their parks accessible to all. All right, next, expanding on Dave Mann's, COVID-19 updates and effects on people with disabilities. And, just asking Dave Mann, I know the last meeting, it was very difficult to get a vaccination. And as we understand it, it's still difficult, but I think it is starting to open up. Is everybody finding,
I'll make a quick comment here. I just received an email while we were sitting here from Bucks County, which is a bit troubling, because what they basically said was, okay, you can make an appointment now between March 2nd and March 6th. But if you registered more than one person using a single email address, you can only register one of those people.
So you need multiple email addresses for each person in the household.
Yeah, and if you don't have that, you're out of luck.
Right.
So they give you a phone number to call. I'm going to call because I use my email address for both myself and my wife. I'm sure we're not unique.
Right. All right.
Yeah, my thinking about the stories that I've been hearing just anecdotally online and stuff is that there's a lot of variation based on where you live on your ability to get a vaccination. And things are, I think it's creating a lot of frustration. And also there's just limited supply. There's a lot more demand than there is, than they have shots available. And hopefully that'll be changing, as more and more people are vaccinated and more shots are given out. But I'll give you an example of something we've experienced. So I have a spinal cord injury and I'm respiratory compromised as a result, but they don't list on a lot of lists of conditions. They're not putting kind of general respiratory compromise or something like that, or definitely not spinal cord injury or anything related to that. So technically when you look at the list, I don't qualify. And then you look at the list and it says that if someone's a smoker, they do qualify. And my level of respiratory compromise is probably comparable to a lot of smokers, but because my condition is not on the list, in this area, I wouldn't qualify relative to a smoker. So, this kind of, it's this kind of, I think these lists were put together with some thought, but probably also fairly quickly. And there's just a lot of people with chronic conditions out there who are living in the community who are just kind of, they're not able to get quick access to shots. So, and I think that's been a problem. I think, again, the more and more I hear from people, the more I hear that some of them are getting shots, but it's been a difficult process.
Okay, well, just hoping everyone that wants one can get one soon. So next is just a reminder about the Smart 911. So we always just bring that up to make sure people sign up for that to get alerts. Dave Mann has mentioned that several times, so we'll just put that information in our meeting minutes. And then I also want to remind people, this Ready Bucks alert, I mean, I've signed up for it. Do you have to sign up for it every year? Because somehow I used to get information and now I get nothing. So I don't believe you have to do it every year, but how do I drop off? So if I share the LMT website. I thought there was, no, I don't have it. But if you go to lmt.org, I mean, you can go right to the government, the safety, the police department. They have a link on it and you can sign up for Ready Bucks Alert. But I was just wondering if anyone else was on there, and do you still get alerts? Or do you have to keep signing up for it?
I've stopped getting them for some reason.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, remember I was getting every lightning alert and everything, and I never went in to change it, and I get nothing.
Right.
So
Yeah, I get nothing out as well.
Does that come to your phone or through
yeah,
your email?
well, you put in how you want to receive the information. So I had text message for weather, and I had emails for things too.
Right.
But I've got nothing in the past year. So I know people are pushing it, but then if how do you drop off is my question. So maybe I'll just follow up maybe with Chief Paluzzi on, you know, how is it being used, or who, you know, who's in charge of that.
If that's a county level thing, it's probably something happening at the county.
Yeah.
They're either not sending anything out, or
I can't imagine with all these storms, you know, because I think, don't you pick your location and say like that we live in, you only want to hear about events occurring in certain townships, or maybe it's all of Bucks County.
I think it was all of Bucks County.
I thought you could narrow it down.
I don't know.
So I'll find out. Again, maybe I'll just reach out to Chief Paluzzi, because I'd rather just get information. You know, I know they have their Twitter, right? The police department, but this Ready Bucks Alert, I would think that they're using that too. So, okay, so I'll just, I'll reach out. All right, next we have building plan reviews, and that's Dave Rogers. The first thing we have is Prickett Preserve.
I did look through all that material that you sent, and it is obvious that it is still a work in progress by a long shot. You pointed out, and I took a look at the section on what they were going to do relative to ADA, and basically said, when we get farther down the pike, we'll address that. So I guess until they have a firm commitment to proceed with the Prickett Preserve process or project, they're not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of it.
So I didn't think that they were that far along. And then when I was watching the supervisor meeting last 2 weeks ago, I panicked and I thought, well, they were giving an informal update on that. If anybody wants to go back and watch it, you can go watch, you know, watch it on the LMT channel. But it seemed like they were giving an informal, but they were pretty far along. So I called in to the Board of Supervisors and I read our priority statement. I thought that might be before their planning got too far along. I wanted to just, you know, let them know that we had come up with a stronger priority plan for our board, and just, you know, got that into the meeting minutes. And I think it was helpful just for them to hear maybe some additional things that we would be looking for, you know, such as in our plan was, you know, family restrooms, or looking at we had talked about some of the apartments being more accessible,
Right.
Making all the pathways accessible, because if you look on their plan, they have a lot of, what do you call it? Like pathways that have stone with grass in between, maybe leading to a pavilion or something. Again, it's not that far along, but, you know, I just wanted to bring that up, that might be hard for someone to navigate, you know, if it's just stones with grass in between. So if you're going to have any gathering places, that it would have to be accessible within. So it wasn't the time or place to discuss details. I just wanted to read our priority statement in and let them know that we were looking forward to, you know, reviewing the plans and coming up with some additional information for them. But, when I just, again, thinking back on what they had said, if you look at their overall plan, I guess the whole idea is to be walkable, walkable, strollable, and there's going to be a lot of traffic. So if you're living in the apartments and you want to get over to Wegmans, you have to kind of go across a main road there. People driving in from Shady Brook Farm area, Township Line Road, back to Wegmans. So I'm hoping we can look at the design and maybe there's a pathway along the 295 so people don't have to really cross over a roadway. So I want them to keep in mind maybe ideas of walkability without having to go across the main, where the main road is. And so maybe putting an accessible path along the back. The other concern, even just with accessibility, is going to be going over to the Edgewood Village. They're talking about putting maybe a little path up closer to the bridge. So maybe people don't have to go out the exit, where the exit's going to be at Shady Brook Farm. Maybe they do like a cut-through path. Again, if there's going to be a cut-through path, it can't be too steep where people can't, use it. And I still don't understand why they would even do that, because now they're talking about putting the path on the, I guess it would be the south side of Stony Hill Road. So people have to cross Stony Hill Road to get to the path to go over 295. You can't have people crossing that road without a light. So I know what they're saying. They're going to have a little island in between, but regardless if you're handicapped or not, you could be slow. You could be pushing a stroller and people coming, over from that Stony Hill from 295 overpass.
55 mile an hour.
They wouldn't have time to stop. So, to me, it has to be at a light if you're going to make people cross Stony Hill Road. So I think that was a little premature in their, them thinking they're going to make all these accessible pathways. So we'll just, as it finalizes, we'll continue to take a look at it. But that would be my main concern, is for people just crossing areas that are too busy.
You've got that, and then I saw on the right, I don't know whether it was in that write-up or in a description of it, but they can't widen the bridge over 95, so they're going to narrow the traffic lanes to make an 8-foot wide, the way I read it, passageway for people to walk. Well, you start getting into that, you're going to have, you're right. This hasn't been thought all the way through.
Yeah.
Fred, is there a timeline on the board of supervisors for when you think, I understand nothing's set in stone, but when they think you're going to have a final approval, so they're going to start maybe making these plans more concrete? Is there a timeline?
Not with us. It's all driven by the applicant.
Okay.
All right.
But you're looking at least until May, from what I understand.
That's helpful.
Mm-hmm. So again, we'll just, keep a look at, for the plans and give our comments. And I do know Jim Majewski did reach out to me and said they were interested in potentially meeting with us or just getting, some comments. So I think they would be, that would be something we would want to definitely do before they get too far along. But we don't want to do that, too soon either, if they make sure they have received approval first. Okay. Any other plans, Dave, that are in the township?
I haven't heard a word.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything.
I don't see anything either.
Yeah, in process, other than a lot of residential.
Yeah.
New buildings going over 55 and so on. Okay. All right. So does anyone have new business that they'd like to bring up?
I don't have any new business. I will just say that I did look it up while we were in the meeting about fundraising for Eagle Scout projects. And it says that, this is from the Boy Scouts of America website, or the BSA website, fundraising for an Eagle Scout service project shall not be required of any candidate Whether or not fundraising takes place is the Scouts' decision based on project needs. The BSA prefers, in fact, that Scouts choose projects that be done at little to no cost. So all that to say, probably that, that the Eagle Scout candidate has to speak with their unit leaders. They're going to be able to be best placed to make the decision, but it doesn't sound like fundraising is a requirement of projects necessarily.
Right. But that might be something that's required from the township just because there's no funds available. I guess the Scout has to have it done before a certain time frame.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I mean, if there are materials involved and the township's not going to pay for them, then obviously the Scout has to find a different source of revenue, or to cover the costs.
I know the several Eagle Scout projects that the Grange was involved with. The Scout was ended up being responsible for at least securing where the materials would come from and
Right.
Trying to get people to donate, et cetera.
No, that type of planning is definitely this. In this case, the Scout should plan the sale. What are all the materials? What's going to be the work plan? The Scout should be doing all of those types of things. It's just the question is and obviously shouldn't be paid for the labor. The question is just the materials themselves.
Right.
Scout have to fundraise.
I just want to say one thing about the snow plowing. First of all, it's been great. Our streets have been plowed tremendously, 3-4 times for each time that it snowed. We live directly across from I don't know if you call it a group home or a home that is sponsored by the Department of Human and Health Services. Not really sure. Is there a priority when it comes to the snow plowing to go to those areas first? Or are we just the township, we've only been in the township for a year, so we don't know much about the township when it comes to this, because I don't think we even had any snow last year. But they just did a fabulous job, and I wasn't sure if there's a priority list when it comes to where you have a group home or a group of senior citizens living in one particular area.
Well, there is a priority list, but it has to do with road usage. So the most traveled roads, the arterial roads are the first priority, and then they move in to eventually cul-de-sacs. So that's I don't think what's on the street is a consideration. I may be wrong, but from what I understand, it's all has to do with traffic flow.
Yeah, that would make sense because that'd be really difficult to try to concentrate on one particular house on a street, so I don't know.
We have a lot of resources when it comes to snow removal.
Yeah.
Salting.
Oh, you do?
Well, I mean, we have our own trucks, and then we have a number of contractors that we go to. This year we definitely went over our budget.
Oh yeah.
In snow removal.
Well, I'm very impressed with the township and how they plowed our streets for the past 2 storms. I'm sorry, Dave.
I was about to say, I went over my snow removal budget too this year.
Yeah. We all did. All right, the last item on the agenda is I just wanted to review the 2021 goals. If there's anything anyone wanted to add besides the usual, looking at building plans, we obviously have a big goal of the ADA transition plan that we're all reviewing and working on. Now we have added the shade, the shade structure that we'd like to get involved with. So that's going to be a goal for 2021 and helping out with that. Was there any, one of my goals is to update the website. So I wanted to add the website and, like I said, is there anything anyone else wanted to kind of focus on in this year?
I mean, for me, the big things that are on our plate right now, right, are looking through this plan so we can vote it and prove it out. There's a few minor things that you mentioned. I think that, and Fred's saying May at the earliest, sounds like hopefully the prick and track plans would hit sometime in the second half of 2021. And I think when that happens, I think we're going to want to, be very focused on them for a season.
We'll have plenty on our plate at that point.
So,
Yeah, I would definitely work on that ADA transition plan and really gel the concept by the end of the year, because I have a feeling that 2022 forward, we're going to be seeing a lot of action. So, this I think is important, that we don't end up missing something and have to redo, something that should have been done first.
Right.
Yeah, so it's great that you guys are on the job.
Okay, I think that's good for now for our 2021 goals. So I guess we need to decide when we're going to meet next. I was thinking May, but now we may want to meet a little earlier. So let me find out from Monica. So we'll say our next meeting is to be determined, maybe late in April, if, I don't know when Parks and Rec meets. I think they meet the first Tuesday of every month. So I'll just find out from them. But the sooner everyone can review that plan, the better.
Yep.
If we have to make some changes.
okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Lisa,
Yes.
I mean, as far as meeting is concerned, it might be a good idea, just the way things might be gelling, no later than the first Monday in May.
Okay. So maybe I'll look at the last week in April. Might be a good idea for us to meet. Okay.
That's good.
We'll look at that. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn? No one has anything else?
So moved.
Said that.
Second by Trish. And who moved?
David, man.
Dave Mann. Okay. All agree? Yay.
Yay.
All right. I will be in touch with the next date, and everyone have a great week.